Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 141. As England get their World Cup warm-up campaign off to the perfect start against Wales at HQ, Eddie seems to have nailed the tactics. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. What a start to England's World Cup planning, World Cup warm-ups. I'm joined by Dan to discuss it all. Hi mate, what did you think?
Hello mate. Well, we always have faith in England, but that was dominant. I must admit, I didn't expect it to be that dominant. I did think we'd win. I genuinely did have a suspicion we'd win. But my God, we bossed them.
Yeah. We said it last week. I said it last week. If you're Wales right now, I mean, you can spin it any way you like in the media. You've played just completely the wrong hand here, right? I mean, you've gone, here's our A team. This is our, 14 of the 15 guys started the Six Nations, the Grand-Slam Six Nations. We're coming to play England. We're temporarily number one in the world, and we're putting out our number one team. We're not pulling any punches, no messing about, and then you get dicked by an England second team.
Were Wales just having a really poor day, or have they got their tactics completely wrong? Is it a mixture of everything?
If you're Welsh, Wales had a really poor day, the worst they've had in two and a half years or something. Personally, I don't think they played that much different to the way they've played for the last 2.5 years.
You've been shouting for that for a while. You've been saying all along.
I don't feel like they've come up against a strong... I'm not going to take all of it away from them, and I'm sure we'll get a massive backlash from me saying this, but like the game against Ireland in the Six Nations, they were very good in that.
Yeah.
But most of the games in that Six Nations, we were saying it at the time, the opposition lost rather than Wales win. Of course, you take your opportunities, and competitions, particularly knockout competitions like the World Cup, is all about getting the win, whatever, however that comes, and of course, that's fair play. But yeah, I think I don't think it's as simple as just saying Wales had a bad day at the office. England were just dominant. They just didn't give them any opportunities.
England
and the mistakes happened on both sides. They're very quick to talk about, if you're going to do things like throw a long line out and not, and it's inaccurate, and you just gift them a try. Well, that was one try. What about all the others? And just as their try, they scored 2 tries, didn't they? But the first one,
no, they got 3 tries.
3 was it?
Yeah.
Well, you see, there you go. They scored 3 tries, and yet it just never felt like they were in the game.
England were completely dominant. Don't get me wrong, England. And that's something to bear in mind. Like England, it's all very well having a great win against a team like 14, Six Nations Grand-Slam champions, 14 games unbeaten. But England were making mistakes as well. There are a few things for England to clear up. But overall,
doesn't that just strengthen this idea?
Yeah, exactly. Like England was so dominant.
An England second team making mistakes and still able to control the game like that. Forget Wales versus England. Just in terms of World Cup preparation, that's massive for England. Eddie Jones has got the tactics absolutely spot on.
So the only thing that I would say when you say an England second team, I think a few of those players are no longer second team players.
No, well, we're going to come on to that. But it's an England second team on paper going into that match.
Absolutely, yeah.
And second teams are there to become first teams. That's what they're all trying to do. So that's good, and it's going to make for some tough decisions in terms of what a 15, what a 23 looks like.
So I've got probably a bit of a reputation of sometimes getting things wrong every now and again. Well, I remember saying, albeit 6 to 8 months ago, when they said Wales forget how to lose, I remember saying, well, England are going to show them. I got it right. England did show them how to lose.
Talking exactly. They've learned. It's important to learn. It's important to learn lessons. I personally wouldn't have gone out looking for the lesson on how to lose just before World Cup, but
it's not the best time to learn that lesson.
Joking aside, from a Wales perspective, so a couple of things actually, right? So first of all, Anscombe. obviously it's now official. He's out of the World Cup. Massive blow for Wales.
That's huge.
He got injured, right? I can't remember whether it was a tackle or a kick or there was something, and he kind of went down. You could see he was limping around, and they didn't do anything. And then it happened again 5 minutes later, and he went down, and he was in pain, and he was kind of trying to shake it off, and he was clearly injured. They didn't do anything. And on the third time it happened, they finally took him off. What the hell are you playing at in a World Cup warm-up game when particularly in Wales, where the media's been all over them about having 4 kind of intense World Cup warm-up games before a World Cup? Why are you not taking him off the minute it looks like there might be a slight niggle? He's one of 2 fly halves that you want to take.
So to compare that, but the reality is, the chances are the initial injury probably would have put him out of the World Cup, but we don't know that. No. And why risk it? Why would you ever risk it?
Gatland was questioned about it afterwards, and he kind of was very flustered, and he kind of went, yeah. Well, obviously the leaving him on didn't make it any worse. How can you possibly know that?
Yeah.
If they'd taken him off straight away, maybe it would have been a bit of swelling and some ice and some rest would have been enough, and he'd be good to go for the World Cup. Maybe the second 2 times that he clearly did something just got a little bit worse each time, and now his World Cup dreams are over. It's madness, and I'm amazed not to have seen more about that in the media instead of people just. I suppose it's people desperately trying to come up with an explanation for what happened on Saturday, and I know that this coming weekend, they'll have an opportunity on Sunday. So this coming weekend, they'll have an opportunity to put things right. But I don't know. I'm not feeling that at all. I think England will play another, in inverted commas, second team. I think he'll go down the same route. I think he'll change it up, but I think there'll be some first team players. Let's not call it first team, second team, but some of the sort of the nailed on starters will be included. But I think there'll be a lot of. I think it's about combinations. It's not about trying people out and seeing who's good now. He's picked his 31, and we're going to come on to that. But it's about saying, right, let's create scenarios. What happens if, we're taking one number 8? What happens if Billy Vunipola's unavailable? He's injured. But it's not an injury that's going to send him home, but he's got to have a week off.
Yeah, I suspect. I think you're exactly right. I don't think it's going to be a case of I'm going to pick my sign team. It's going to be. So I suspect, right, we need to try an 8. And don't forget, KFC are now doing on Tuesdays. They're doing 9 chicken pieces for $5.99. So Billy will be down there probably now. I think they open at 11, so he'll be down there now. He might still be fairly full come Saturday, so I suspect he'll be rested. And we need to try out who's going to be at number 8, because at the moment my starting back row would be Ludlam, Curry, and Vunipola. So yeah. I reckon Wilson will have a run out at 8.
Yeah. Well, so this is where slight concerns kick in, right? So there was someone who tweeted something on Twitter, believe it or not, saying madness that Eddie Jones is announcing his 31-man squad so early. Players are humans too, and those that got dropped and all this sort of stuff. And I kind of said, well, hold on a second. He's been quite open about why he's done this. It's because he doesn't want to spend the next 4 weeks or whatever it is with the media speculation over who's going to get selected. Not just media speculation, but also within the squad. He wants to be able to say, right, we've all worked hard. This is the 31. Breathe, take a breath, and now let's focus on the next 4 weeks. Let's focus on developing as a 31. And it might change, and injuries might impact it, and maybe something will happen, and someone will just not be performing, and he still has the right to make changes. I think I said last week, was it the 9th of September that he has to actually submit his final 31?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date, but his reasoning for picking the team now, to me, could not be more sound. Like when he's saying we've seen mistakes from previous years, I think that's spot on, and I completely agree with it. I think now's a really good time to pick it.
I do too, but right, obviously those that have not been picked, particularly those that were most on the fringes, will have been told, don't go and put on 3 stone. You don't just take a holiday. You need to keep working hard because you just never know, and they'll know that too. And injuries inevitably happen. And I'd be amazed if this 31 is the 31 that gets on the plane because of that, unfortunately. Right now, you've got Noel, Vunipola, Curry, Underhill, Slade, and McConaughey. Although I don't know the extent of his injury, but all of those, I think they're saying 2-3 weeks.
Okay.
Would you, and this is where it gets a bit difficult. Would you look to bring someone in for each of them for these warm-up games? Because they would effectively be, in the event that one of these got injured, this is who we'd replace them for. They'd be a like-for-like replacement.
So in theory, yes, I think I personally would, but it depends. I mean, it almost takes away a bit of a reasoning for picking this squad.
You're 100% right, it does. But then you look at... So I went through and kind of tried to make a guess at what I think he'll pick for the next game, based on wanting to mix it up a bit. And I've gone Marler, Singleton, Sinclair, front row.
Okay.
With Cole, George and Genge as the replacements. Well, Genge and Sinclair are the only options there. And then obviously Cole, Marler, and then Mako is obviously injured, so he's out of the equation for this game. So they have to be included. Harry Williams was obviously included last weekend. He's not been selected in the 31, so he's not an option. Would you be tempted to say, if something happens to Mako, or I don't know if it's the wrong replacement, but if something was to happen to Genge or Cole, and you need to bring a Harry Williams in, do we do it now because there is an injury currently in place? Likewise, I've gone Cruz and Itoje in the second row because Cruz was on the bench for the game just gone. Itoje wasn't involved. You know what Launchbury can do. Yules obviously isn't in the 31. I don't think. No,
he's not. No.
So yeah, do you go Cruz Itoje with Launchbury on the bench? The back row in particular, you've got Curry and Underhill, two kind of pivotal members of the back row, and there aren't that many actually that we're taking because you've then got Ludlam, Wilson, Billy, and then potentially Courtney Laws if you're looking at him as a back row player. So would you go Ludlam, Laws, Wilson this weekend?
I would probably have Laws in the row and go Itoje at 6. And go, actually, yeah. But who do you have at 7? I mean, is Ludlam?
Well, I don't. I mean, I guess you're not playing an out 7 because both your 7s are currently injured.
I think it'll be the old Haskell Robshaw days, 6.5.
Yeah.
So I think I would go. I think for now I wouldn't have the non-squad members in, but I wouldn't be scared to bring them in. Should there be more injuries? Like, rather than play people to exhaustion because they're in the 31, this weekend I don't think we need to because I think, so for example, at back row, I think you can go Wilson. I would play Ludlam again.
Yeah.
Just so he's got some game time. And then I'd probably go someone like Marrow or possibly Laws at 6 because that may need to happen in the
Yeah, 100%. So it's creating scenarios and it's easier to replace our second row. We've got more options in the second row right now with Curry and Underhill injured. Now, and would you rest Billy or would you put him on the bench?
I would. I might bench him, but I might bench him with.
I think I would. I think I'd rest him because I know there's a number 8 issue, but this is about scenarios. So I think I would rest him completely because with Cruz, Itoje, Laws, and Launchbury all involved in the matchday squad, you've got options. Maybe you put Cruz at 8 in the event that.
No, I think you'd put if Wilson.
No, I'm saying I would start Wilson at 8 in this scenario.
Yeah, but I think you'd then move Ludlam to 8.
Oh, okay. Ludlam is an 8 cover. I didn't realise.
Well, he's a back row. I wouldn't say he's necessarily an 8 cover, but I wouldn't put Cruz at 8. I don't.
And so therefore, in the same vein, would you start Hines again because he's only got the 1 cap, or would you switch them around this time around?
I would switch them around this time because I think the way Hines played, Ben Youngs needs to be like, oh crap, I need to start proving myself.
I've got Hines currently sitting ahead of Youngs.
So you said this to me. I hadn't yet seen the game, and you said to me, I've got Hines sitting ahead of Youngs, and I was like, that's a nice 4. I understand your reasoning, but no, I don't agree. I watched the game. I couldn't agree more.
He was
he was
dominant.
Brilliant.
He and not like in a sort of Danny Care sniping way, because he does that too, but just in a all encompassing, controlling the game, controlling the forwards, controlling the backs, linking them together, smart decision making. It was the whole package, and I think Ben Youngs is a great scrum half too, but I think he lacks some of that go forward that you get from Willie Hines actually.
Well, Willie Hines is one of the form scrum halves in the world at the moment. And I said this to you yesterday or Sunday or whenever it was. I said that the best teams in the world, the team that's number one in the world, often has the best or one of the top few best scrum halves in the world. You look at New Zealand when they've been dominant and they've had the likes of Aaron Smith there. You look at South Africa now, they've got Faf de Klerk, they've got Yanchi. South Africa are probably currently playing the best rugby in the world and are looking the biggest threat. And to me, Willie Hines is certainly in that conversation as to whether being one of the best scrum halves in the world. I know a lot of people will argue this, but look at the way he played for Gloucester all season.
Yeah.
And I think he's playing better rugby than Ben Youngs, and I would start him. Could you imagine playing against him? You would absolutely fucking hate the guy. He's quick, he's quick. He bosses the game. He gets quick delivery out. And when he runs, he's just one of those players where you're just like, just stand still. I can't tackle you. You're annoying me. And I think he's been a hell of a find. And I was surprised initially when he was left as one of the two. Now I think he's an absolutely genius choice.
Once again, Eddie with the unconventional great call.
Yes, yeah.
Do we start Faz this weekend?
Yeah, I think so.
Have Ford on the bench?
Yeah, I think so. Give Faz a run out. I thought Ford did pretty well, actually.
I did. I think, we said this before, and there's been a lot of chat, various things going out saying, who's the most unlucky. And, there's obviously the Cipriani debate came back up. And yeah, I just think at this stage, I'm kind of over it in terms of, I've accepted that it's a decision that Eddie's made. Possibly taking the extra back five player rather than an extra fly half. You could argue that maybe that's a mistake, but we'll come on to that in a moment. But yeah, I think Ford just offers like security, if you like. He's a safe pair of hands. He's going to play a good game, and if he's coming off the bench, you've got your kind of flashy player, the guy that can create those moments of brilliance in Faz. If that's not working, or if we need to change the game plan and you're looking for just a solid alternative, then Ford makes sense. I don't see why you would go, Owen Farrell isn't creating the moment of genius. We need to bring on Cipriani to do it. They're kind of that to me. What Cipriani brings, albeit perhaps he has more magical individual moments. You pick Faz over Cipriani, and therefore it's between those two and a safe pair of hands like Ford, unless you take three of them. But then, are you using upper space?
The only question I have with that, and the one call that I still am surprised about is Piers Francis.
Yeah,
I must admit, and there was part of me thinking, would I rather have Cipriani instead of Piers Francis? It leaves us a bit short at 12, but actually does it, because I think a Faz can play 12. I think a Slade can step in at 12, because having seen JJ play, Slade may not be the first choice 13 anymore.
JJ looks so good.
Oh my God, what's gone on? He looks back to his best. He looks so sharp.
Both he and Watson, you forgot that they'd been out for sort of a year and a half each, or whatever it's been.
I forgot how many attacking threats we've got in the back. So if you look at the starting team, if for argument's sake you've got Faz, yeah, great control game. Tuilagi, you could have put 20 Welsh defenders in front of him. He was getting through when he made that break.
Yeah, that was
so you've got Tuilagi danger at every point. You've got Johnny May danger at every point. You've got Joseph danger at every point. Watson danger, Daly danger. We have got an old school All Blacks potent back line at the best when they're playing at their best. And that's what you need to win a World Cup.
So this weekend, just going back to this then, do we start Tuilagi?
Yes. Faz, to me, I go Faz, Tuilagi, and I might go Joseph.
I think you have to go Joseph again, because I think the alternative is obviously Slade, who's injured.
Yeah.
At 13, I don't think I want to see any of the others unless you mix it up and put Daly there. Have Watson at the back and Cokanasiga. So McConaughey, I don't know whether he's going to be fit for this weekend. Hopefully he is, because I think having selected him, having never played before for England, we want to see him sooner rather than later. So if he is fit, and it was just a little niggle last weekend, I would have him starting so we can see what he's all about with Johnny May.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Watson at the back, but I'd be tempted to say, well, let's see Daly at 13. If we're trying things out, within the 31 to see what scenarios might be required.
I don't think you need to try that scenario.
Well, except that 13 is Daly's first choice position, and he's never played there for England.
Well,
and you've got Watson, who's just looking world class.
We say it was his first choice. I mean, for Watson, if he's not fullback, he tends to be on the wing more these days.
Right now, I've got Joseph starting at 13, and I've got Watson at fullback, and I've got Daly or McConaughey on the wing. But just when we've been talking, I'm thinking, maybe put Joseph on the bench, have Daly start at 13, and see what happens. Because it's, and again, I think it takes a lot of pressure off, because it's not about the result, but at the same time, if you can get one, great, and it's pressure on Wales. But also, it's creating scenarios for the World Cup. It's not about trying people out. It's not about doing testing why are you doing this so close to a World Cup? It's about saying there's a real feasibility to a scenario during the World Cup where something like this might be needed. And can it happen, or do you want to just make that call on the day and go, let's cross?
So that's where I slightly disagree. So I think the 13s you've got JJ and Henry Slade typically. If they're, for whatever reason, can't play, I think Tuilagi, because don't forget he plays 13 as well quite a lot. So I think he'd go into 13. If for whatever reason those three aren't about, I think you've called in somebody else to come and fill the 13 role, a Marchant maybe. So the reason I wouldn't put Daly there is I don't really see a World Cup scenario where you would play Daly at 13.
Well, it's not that you'd start him there, it's whether or not it needed to happen during the match because of the team you'd selected.
Arguably, but I still think it's, in which case, so be it. But okay. I still think that's unlikely. I think
bottom line, do we want to see Watson at 15, or do we think he's nailed on as a winger? And
I want to see Watson on the wing. I think Watson and May on the wing will be absolutely disgusting.
Do you think we will, though? Because at the moment, Daly is the only fullback. By
disgusting, I mean amazing. I think Watson might have a run out of fullback. I'd like to see Watson. Because Watson's been out so long, I want to see Watson on the wing again. I wouldn't mind seeing Watson run out of fullback maybe against Italy in the warm-up games.
Okay.
But for now, I wouldn't mind seeing Daly have another. I think Daly's our starting fullback, and I want him to stay that way.
Interesting.
That would be my...
and then have Cokanasiga on the bench again.
Or
not again. He was meant to be on the bench last weekend.
God, yeah. Who would you... So, and I know we are jumping to and from here. Who are your starting wingers? My God, we've got some talent on the wing.
I mean, I think you have to have Johnny May.
You do.
I think.
I agree, but there's not.
But this is where I genuinely think we need to see Watson at fullback, because I genuinely think that Daly, as much as he offers the massive boot and he's got pace. If you had to choose between Watson or Daly to play in the game,
I am still just edging Daly, if I'm honest.
So you'd see Watson left out if that was the choice.
If you could only have one or the other for either position, I think it's so tough. But
let us know, guys. Let us know what you would do. There you go. That's the question. If you could only pick Watson or Daly to be in the 23, who would you choose? There's no real reason why that has to be a scenario, but that's the scenario we're presenting to you now. Let us know at England Rugby Pod on social media, or englandrugbypod@gmail.com. And let us know who you would choose out of those two. But yeah, so Cokanasiga obviously then is another one, and he's so unique. You know, the guy's 120 kilos, and according to JJ, he's the second quickest guy in the team after Johnny May.
I'm not having that. I'm not having that. You can't be that big, that strong, and you're not allowed to be that quick. I'm not having it.
What are you talking about? He's English.
Yeah, I know, but
therefore
it's
definitely allowed. It's just not allowed elsewhere.
It is allowed, but that's machine type territory. Exactly. He's moving away from being a human being to a machine.
Exactly.
I love it. From my point of view, it just messes with my minds and my concepts of physics.
Is he an impact player? You know, do we in a World Cup knockout, quarterfinal, semi-final, final? You know, does he come off the bench?
No,
or do you need him doing the damage from the beginning?
I don't, mate. I have no idea. I kind of want him having doing the damage from the beginning. I think every time I've seen him in an England shirt when he started, I've just thought, holy crap, that guy's good.
I mean, this to me is why I find it strange that McConaughey was selected. And obviously, as I say, I reserved full judgment until we see him in an England shirt, because he might turn out to just be outrageous. But, you've now got Daly, McConaughey, Watson, May, Cokanasiga, and Noel. And I don't see enough positions for... to me, it's like, well, surely at this point, and I'm slightly going back on what I said before, a Cipriani or, another scrum half or, another number 8 or something.
It does seem... Eddie has clearly got... So when you were saying about the Daly at 13, Eddie may well have that in mind, because the talent we have in the wings, we're not shouting out for McConaughey. Like, it's not...
No.
It is not necessary. But like we say, maybe there's something he adds, but I mean... And
other than Watson being able to cover fullback, you wouldn't really say that McConaughey, I don't know, but I'm guessing he's a winger, out and out. Cokanasiga, as big as he is, as far as I'm aware, wings all he knows. Like, you've got, if you're going to take 6 of them, I mean, Noel obviously is a bit more flexible, but again, we've only ever seen him at wing or fullback, or the occasional stint in the back row. I just wonder whether you have to look at someone like a Daly as an option.
Oh, is it Daly or possibly a Noel in the
or Noel
centres? Yeah, maybe you're right. Because we have, as a back three, I don't care what anyone says, there's no better in the world. There's no better pool within the World Cup squad in the world, the All Blacks included.
I mean, does England have the best strength and depth right now in across the World Cup squads?
I haven't seen the others. South Africa are pretty good. New Zealand are pretty good. We're up there. We're certainly up there.
Does South Africa have the pool?
Not
the pool as in are they going to win their pool? I mean, do they have the pool of players? We know that they're a great setup right now, but could they play a second team and it'd be almost as strong as a first team?
Maybe not to the extent that the All Blacks or England could. I don't know the South African team well enough to say that for sure. I know they've got some good depth. It's so hard to say the All Blacks don't have that. But having said that, the All Blacks were pretty damn average against Australia. They've been pretty average for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I saw a stat that said that no Southern Hemisphere team has ever won the World Cup and the Championship in the same year.
Yeah, but who won the Championship this year? South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think South Africa will win the World Cup. I think it's England or New
Zealand. But more importantly, New Zealand didn't win the Championship this year.
Yeah. I know.
And neither have they. So it's almost like a World Cup year. When New Zealand have won the World Cup, it's almost like they've intentionally just sort of taken a foot off the gas a little bit during the Championship. And maybe there's something in that. Maybe they're saying, look, the Northern Hemisphere, they're getting warm-up games. They're getting to try things out and not take it easy, but take it slightly easier. Whereas obviously they're in an actual Test match competition as their kind of warm-up games, and they don't want to risk the injuries, so they do take their foot off the gas a little bit. And maybe that's the thing with New Zealand. It's like, and we've said it in fact before with New Zealand. If you can get New Zealand on the back foot, they've often struggled to turn things around. It's just that it's very rare for a team to put them on the back foot. And on the few occasions that we have beaten them, it's because of that. You've put the pressure on, put them on the back foot, and then not taking your foot off the gas. And I wonder whether that's why often before a World Cup, New Zealand perhaps don't.
Are they messing with us
in the Championship?
Is that what you're saying?
I'm wondering. Maybe they've seen this England squad and they've gone, guys, we need to just chill because we need every player we can get.
Yeah, let's just chill. We'll get to the World Cup and we'll then release the blacklash.
Release the hounds.
Yeah.
Are we thinking we really should do the maths and work out what's possible? But are we thinking England New Zealand final?
Yeah.
Because we know that England are in the final. We've already.
Yeah, it could be.
I know it could be.
I can't remember I can't remember the likely scenarios, but
I think when the pools were done, I think England were number 2 in the world.
Yeah,
so I think it has intentionally 1 and 2 have to be able to meet in the final.
Yeah, so I think England,
so I think we can meet them in the final.
Yeah, and I think that could be a likely scenario for sure.
Good insight.
Yeah, thanks. I've really hedged my bets there, haven't I?
There could be 2 teams in the final of the World Cup.
Do you know what? The truth is, I don't care. I don't care who we beat in the World Cup final.
Got to beat them all. Got to beat the best to get there in the first place, haven't you? So
Exactly. So when looking at this team, so the Tom Curry thing, obviously he's picked. We're not worried about it. Eddie Shane Warren Gatland, what you're meant to do is somebody takes a knock during a warm-up game, get them off, get them looked at. But we're not worried.
He said a couple of weeks for that one.
Yeah, the whole timing thing is starting to bother me a little bit because the timings just don't add up with most of the.
Stop reading text messages.
Sorry, mate. The phone's ringing. Hev's just come back in with the dog from a walk, and
it's all going on.
Mowing the lawn. It's all going on like an England Test match. It's. So I completely forgot where I was. You threw me off track there.
Come on, Dan. I wasn't really listening, to be honest. I wasn't listening to what you were saying, so I don't know where you were either.
I have no idea what's going on.
Brilliant.
I don't even know where we're going.
Let's. It clearly wasn't important. Let's move on a little bit because we've covered a lot of what the squad looks like by talking about the team we want to see this weekend. But let's look at the rest of the squad, and I think more importantly, is there anyone that you feel? And we're not talking the Ciprianis who were left out a while back, or the Goods that never made it in the first place.
I think you're hinting at Ben Teo here, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. Ben Teo and anyone else that you feel should have been included. We've just touched on the fact that he's gone with 6 back 3 players, and obviously that means that someone else isn't going. And in particular, you're leaving out Harry Williams, so he's taking. And I'm not going to make the mistake of getting loose head, tight head wrong.
I'm not even going to comment.
3 of one and 2 of the other. And then 3 hookers.
Yeah.
Is that a mistake?
No, I don't think so. Otherwise, you've got 9 front row positions taken.
But bear in mind, every single game requires 6.
So, So the reason for taking 9 is because you, in theory, can't comfortably. There's no player who can comfortably cover both sides.
Yeah.
But I think there are a couple, and I'm not going to go into who can do it if need to. So perhaps during a USA game,
right,
you have somebody cover where, so that the rest is given there. And actually, during the World Cup, whether you're on the bench or not, everyone's involved in every game. It's not like a Lions tour where the midweek team will go on the piss if
of course.
If they're not playing that weekend, everyone's involved. So if you're starting on the bench every game, Fine, so be it. I don't think that, as long as
it's more about the big boys at the front needing extra rest.
Yeah, and they can get the rest. And, as soon as there's an injury, I'm pretty sure Williams would be flown out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, and something I saw on Twitter, is that, Japan is not just a few hours flight away. So if an injury comes along and it's quite late notice, potentially there isn't time to get somebody out. Do you have people on tactical holidays?
No, you don't know. Do you remember they did it? They were saying and I'm not one to mention 2003,
No,
but what they did, and I heard this from another podcast, and I think this is genius. There was one week where, because the only two scrum halves out there were Dawson and Bracken, and one week Austin Healy was obviously the backup scrum half, and one week both Dawson and Bracken pretended they had a knock. Austin Healy got flown out. As soon as he landed, they were both like, actually, do you know what? I'm feeling better now. And he had to literally turn around and fly straight back. So they did it just to mug off Austin Healy. But that can be done. I mean, yes, tactical holidays might be good, but I think it's a case of maybe saying to Harry Williams that you cannot go on your family holiday. You cannot be doing that, because there is a chance that we might call you on a Wednesday saying we need you to play in Japan on Saturday, or we need you to sit on the bench.
But imagine you're training on the Friday, you got the game on the Saturday, and you pick up a knock, and you can't play. There isn't time to fly Harry Williams out at that point.
No, there's not. In which case, you just have to have somebody cover.
I mean, this applies in other positions too, because if something was to happen to you're only taking two scrum halves. If something was to happen to either Youngs or Hines on a Friday, and they couldn't play on the Saturday, you do not have.
Well, that's exactly why I have. I mean, that's exactly why Friday's a captain's run and there's a non-intent. You never know, because you can still tweak a hammy or something, can't you, during that? But I mean, they're the sort of scenarios that if it happens, it happens. It's incredibly unlucky, but you can't. You can't plan for every single scenario like that. You just not.
Why is a World Cup squad limited to 31? Do you know, Dan, and do any of you guys out there know the answer to that question? Because it seems to me that with player welfare being such a big deal, and you're not talking about changing the match day 23. That is what it is. Why not just take a few more players?
I don't know.
Like within reason. I don't mean take 60, but
I don't know specifically why it's 31, but that does seem a fair number. I mean, everyone's got to be on an even pegging, don't they? Because also you've got to an extent, I guess, look at the lower nations. So perhaps when I say the lower nations, I mean maybe lower ranked nations who have less. They have less of a pool. So that's the purpose of the match day 23. It is, but someone like
at the end of the day, your player pool exists any way you look at it, and if you decide that one of your players isn't good enough, he just says he's injured and goes home.
But what if at Fiji, say it was 40 people, a Fiji probably don't have 40 players who realistically
that's fine.
they'd want to put on a pitch.
So you don't have to take 40.
No, you don't have to. But then it's not. You're not on as even footing as someone like an All Blacks who would have 40 players.
But aren't you? Because all your preparation has been with as many as you want.
Yeah, but that's the point. Like a World Cup, there needs to be a selection. People need to earn the place. And it does need to be on an even footing for every nation, I think. I think, to me, it makes sense. It does make sense to me. I'm not saying the 31's the right number, because these days, because of injuries and player welfare, it still seems to be a right number for me, but it doesn't seem right. So, say Fiji, even if you're allowed to take 40 players, Fiji probably have 8 of those players who they would never play anyway, because...
No, but it's not about taking them out. You're taking the squad out, but it's about having reserves. It's about saying, look, we live in England, but we're playing in Japan. It's a long way. We need guys who are knowledgeable about the way that the game is being played, our tactics, and are training with us, so their fitness is there. Who perhaps unknowingly are backups, but they're backups on call rather than backups sitting at home waiting to see if they get the call. Because you could argue that there's a player welfare issue with bringing someone in who hasn't been training with the squad and who isn't as sort of match ready, and therefore they're coming into a game slightly cold by comparison. Whereas if they'd been at least training with the squad and they knew what was going on, it's perhaps a safer environment.
Yeah, I get that, but I guess that's what these pre-World Cup training camps are for. So people do know the moves, people do know the game plan, and like you say, why the likes of a Harry Williams will be told to go home to stay in absolute peak condition, because that may come. I also think if you get too many, it probably takes away a bit from the camp. It probably takes away a bit from the atmosphere within the camp, the bonding within the camp. I think 31 is a good number where you can all, get together, go for it together. I think if you've got too many, it can, to an extent, maybe, maybe lose a bit of that closeness, a bit of that brotherhood. I'm massively speculating here. To me, 31 makes sense.
Someone's going to message us saying, yes, it's not 31. You can take whatever you want.
I know there is a restriction. It's also that it actually part of the excitement of things such as
injuries and replacements and how it all works. It keeps it interesting, doesn't it?
And it's also a case about the selection. Like, think about what all the chat's been about the last few months in rugby. It's about who's involved, who's not involved, who's been dropped.
What would we have to talk about, Dan, if they could just take as many as they wanted? So they've done it. What you're saying is they've done it for the England Rugby Pod.
Well, they've done it for the England Rugby Pod mainly, but they possibly predated us with regards to this. Yeah,
okay. But they probably suspected that we were going to do this in 2019.
They may well have. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. Is there anyone? Oh, yeah. So let's talk about Ben Teo. Clearly fallen foul. Clearly been dropped because of the way that Eddie's been going on, because of whatever happened between him and Mike Brown in camp. Eddie has talked, I think, in the most recent article that I read, he's talked about needing a squad with what he calls a samurai spirit. But that he needs kind of a mature team that gels well together, and so an incident a week, 3-4 weeks before they're going to fly out there. Do we think that is what it is? Do we think he's basically just gone, I don't need this sort of thing in my squad? You've let yourself down, and that's the end of that, or do we think that's media cover up for him saying you're just not there yet?
I think in my head, I think it's very likely to do with an incident. I think it's probably very likely to do with a behaviour that Eddie Jones saw and just hasn't liked and think might be disruptive to the squad.
Because Teo's been pretty high on Eddie Jones's kind of wish list for a long time. Like, he seems to have been, at times when we've gone, I'm not convinced that Teo offers as much as certain other players. Eddie's kind of gone with him anyway, stuck by him, and now suddenly this, and it's like, I think the team looks great without him. That's not to say that I don't. I feel like if we lose Manu, which God forbid happens, but it wouldn't be the first time that Manu had gone down injured, and if we did lose Manu, we've lost the only player that we've currently got who kind of fits that mould.
Yeah, it is a tough one. So I think the Teo thing, I think if this had happened post the last Lions tour, Teo still makes it because of how good he was there. But don't forget, Teo, he's been injured quite a lot. He hasn't played, he hasn't excelled sort of domestically or internationally this year, really. And a lot of that is because he's been injured. I'm not saying not because he's good enough. So,
do you think there might be an element of actually, Eddie's letting the media speculate about the reasoning, but perhaps actually he thinks that there are better options?
I think it might be a mixture of both. I think it might be a mixture of... He
was on the fringe and this was the final straw or something.
Yeah, the straw that broke the camel's back, I believe is the expression.
Very good. Anyone else that you feel has been particularly unfortunate? Dan Robson?
No, not after seeing Willie Hines.
But you're happy with two scrum halves?
I am, yeah.
And you'd have the extra back five player back rather than...
Actually,
let's say, given what we talked about at the beginning,
I might have got an extra back row player.
So who would you given what we talked about at the beginning, and assuming that of those back five players, the one you would leave out would be McConaughey. If you weren't taking him, who would you take in his place?
So I mean, personally, I'd have gone for Kovacic or Arman, but with what had gone on, and obviously Shields out, I'd probably have gone Don Brandt. I think if Shields was fit, Shields may have been there instead of McConaughey.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not like Eddie is shy about bringing someone in who's inexperienced. I think Don Brandt would be a more valuable extra body.
But
given
like we
the
say,
quality
I
we
need
have
to
in
see
the back five already.
McConaughey playing in England top.
Yeah, sure. But even if McConaughey is amazing, then maybe one of the others needs to be left out. I don't want to leave them out, but I feel like 6 is too many. There's never a scenario, unless there's injuries, in which case, in theory, you're replacing them, where...
He must have, I think you're right, Elliot, he must have one or two of them earmarked for covering other positions, be that Daly Knoll as an outside centre. I don't know, but in my head, that must be the case.
I mean, Piers Francis obviously covers multiple
We're missing
positions.
something. We're missing something here.
What's that?
Well, we're missing something with Piers Francis.
Yeah.
He's a good player. He's not a bad player, but he has not played well enough to an England standard since he's been in the UK compared to some other players. He must just fit the exact mould how Eddie wants to play the game, which we still don't 100% know.
Well, he covers fly half, right?
He can, yeah. He
so not that you'd pick him, but in theory he's there as a third fly half cover in the event that's needed for some reason. Obviously, he plays 12, and I think he covers fullback again as a very outside last.
So that could be a big reason.
So that might be why he's there, because he's very much a utility back.
Yeah.
But then I would argue that whilst Noel's not going to be a fly half, he's quite a utility back. I mean, let's be honest. If you were desperate and you threw Cokanasiga in the centres, would you be that upset?
I would be if I was defending him.
Maybe that's why he's able to leave Teo out. Maybe he's secretly thinking one of his secret weapons is that one of these games, Cokanasiga's going to rock up at 12.
So this is actually a good point. And I'm jumping again. Billy and Cokanasiga had no right scoring those tries.
Maybe he's cover for 8. Maybe Cokanasiga's the 8 cover.
Billy was pushed over the line, was standing upright with the ball pretty much by his face. How he got that down, I don't know.
Yeah, that was good.
Cokanasiga, you shouldn't be able to drive over him there. Amazing, and I'm glad they did. But I don't know whether that was poor defence or just because they are just so huge.
A bit of both, I would think.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, Cokanasiga, maybe Cokanasiga is a secret 8 cover /12.
Him and he's going to play
half.
out. Jack Knowles going to be at 7, and Piers Francis at 6.
Pick and go as the scrum half. Cokanasiga, 120 kilos, running the 100 in 10.6 or whatever. I don't know what Johnny May runs it in.
How is he the second fastest? That is insane.
So yeah.
Do we believe that? Do we think he's quicker than Watson? Oh, I guess he must be.
I mean, Jonathan Joseph loves Watson, so what?
Yeah, why would you make it up? Yeah.
We have some very good problems ahead.
We do,
and it's exciting times. And I think I ran a poll, admittedly only a few hours before the last game, and it came back with about 50-50, maybe slightly in favour of Wales for who people predicted would win. I've run the same poll for this coming weekend. And it's about 90% are currently backing England. Obviously, things can change. There is the Cardiff factor. But just the way that England played in the last game and the way that Wales played, I just feel really confident.
If you actually look at it, England did not play their best rugby, yet they were still so dominant. And it's saying, yeah, fine, if Wales put in a performance and get it together. Well, if they get it together and England just improve a little bit, I still think England win.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. A couple of the things that I took from that game that are really, particularly positive. One, in the Six Nations, England had a habit of, when things are going well, when they're in a strong attacking position, they boss it. And with a back line like we've got and the options we've got in the back line, it's no surprise. But when things started to turn, they didn't seem to have a plan B, everyone liked to call it. I felt like that changed last weekend. England. Strong start, it was all going well. Started to look like Wales were coming back into the game, and England found a way to just turn it back on again. And one of the biggest things, and this is the other take from that game, was what you call for constantly, what we as a podcast call for constantly, which is the build the score. Every opportunity for points, take it. And that's what they did. And there were even one or two occasions where I was thinking, oh, do you want to go for the corner? And then he'd take the points, and I'd be like, no, why would you go for the corner? Build the score, build the score, build the score. And it just meant that every time Wales started to come back in, England was pushed them a little bit further away again. And it just becomes frustrating for oppositions. Every minute that ticks down, it makes it harder. And you reach a point where I think oppositions go, we've run out of time. And at that point, you go and score another try or whatever because they make mistakes and put the game to bed. And it's so important to just keep that gap, keep daylight between you and the opposition, and just keep building the score. And so I'm hoping that that's not just George Ford, but that's a tactical thing that's been discussed in camp, because there have been occasions in the past. So if Faz starts on Saturday, I'm hoping to see the exact same thing from him. When points are on offer, take them and just keep building the score. Did I mention building the score?
But I heard something similar to that, so I think we got the point across. Same with Elliot Daly. That drop goal was it was cheeky. It was very naughty, but it was that was great. There was nothing on. He was there.
Penalty advantage.
Took a shot to nothing. Even if there wasn't a penalty advantage, if he missed it, not the end of the world. It's not like there was anything else on. So why not? He took it. He got the 3 points.
I think, to give him credit, I think he knew there was a penalty advantage. I don't think he'd have.
I'm sure he did.
It was such a wild stab, and it's easy to praise things that work when they work.
Of course.
I think had there not been a penalty advantage and he'd done that and he'd missed, everyone would have been like, "What the hell are you doing? You weren't lined up. You know."
No, he wasn't lined up, but equally he had. He was at the bat, last man. It would have actually just taken. Fine, it might have been the 22 restart, but it would have taken pressure off a bit, because they saved all the England players having to run back to cover. So
fine.
I liked it.
Obviously, I liked it too, because I believe that he knew there was a penalty advantage.
I
and
believe
that's the only
he knew
reason
that as
he
well,
did it.
100%.
Fitness-wise, Wales made a huge song and dance about how they were going to be the fittest team in the world, and that was going to get them through. And
I thought they looked tired. I
don't know if I would say they looked tired, but I certainly didn't think that they looked fitter than England. I thought the England boys looked pretty.
They looked like machines.
They looked like maybe end of the game 80%. They looked like they had a good 20% left to give, and that's not to say that they didn't give it their all. I think that probably was the right call. Like, it's a warm-up game, and it's not about the result in the warm-up games in terms of the scoreline. It's about the result in terms of what you learn from it and what you can take into the World Cup. Obviously, if we can get the wins along the way, even better. But yeah, if they can go through the warm-up games performing, like that, cleaning up some of the mistakes and doing it at 80%, but knowing that, so that when the World Cup starts, they can hit that 100% and just there's an extra step. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing that. And I think when I first saw the squad last weekend, I was like, I wanted to see, you talked about it, I wanted to see our first team out there, and couldn't have been wronger. It was absolutely the right call. I'm enjoying seeing him mixing it up a little bit. And I guess this is where the 31 is a good thing, because it doesn't feel like he's just trying wild sort of pie-in-the-sky ideas. It's, look, we've got our squad now. Now we need to test scenarios from within this squad. And therefore, it's okay to do that, I think.
Yeah, I know. I agree. England did it. That was a great start. That was an absolute great start to the next few months. They look good. They look strong. It looks like that camp has been... It looks like every second of the time has been used well. And... yeah, I'm interested. I'm genuinely intrigued to see what's going to happen, what the team will be, and what's going to happen this weekend, because I think we're starting to look oh so sweet.
Exactly. Final question for you then. How do things look for Wales if they lose on Saturday?
Couldn't give a shit.
but for those that are interested,
not great. No. Wales, if they lose again. You can put last weekend down to a one-off, as long as they have a very good performance next time out. If they lose again, Wales, to me, don't have... It's all very well them fighting. They're fighting gallantly to not lose games, but a World Cup's not going to go like that. So Wales now need to show something extra. They need to show something more inventive. I mean, if there's a moment of genius from Davies to score that first try, they need more like that. They can't just rely on Hadley, Park, George, and all that, just trying to smash everything up. I know people will say that with England, with Billy and Cotton, but the breaks from the Hines, from JJ, from that lot, Wales need to show more of that. Otherwise, I think they're in real trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is where tactically, I think they got it so wrong by coming out guns blazing, giving it all the chat about this is our gun team, this is our first team. Yeah, I said at the beginning. And I think, it was a massive 50-50 because if it goes well, you get to come away saying, there you go. And if it goes badly, you're left going, where do we go from here? And, there's lots of chat about, we're always bad in the warm-ups. Why? Why are you always bad in the warm-ups? There's no reason to be bad in the warm-ups. You're supposed to have just spent all this time training. Why are you not able to now convert that into a performance?
And who's one of your most important players? Yeah, who's most important players? Alan Jones. If he gets a knock, just make sure he plays for full 80. Yeah. Run and knock off. That's the best medical advice I can give.
Do you play Dan Biggar this weekend?
I mean, you have to, don't you?
Well, I mean, they need him, but they have obviously now got to take another fly half. So I think it's Reece Patchell, or I can't remember who the other option is.
I think Patchell to me would probably be the next in line. I think
but equally, do you need to wrap him in cotton wool now?
Well,
one game in out of 4, and you've lost your World Cup starting fly half.
Yeah, you do need. Yeah, you do need to don't, because they need to play as a team. They need to get it together as a team. These things happen. I think you learn from if they go down with a knock, but equally that could happen in the first World Cup group game. So,
I mean, I'll be honest. I would rather, if England come up against Wales in the World Cup, I would prefer not to be playing against Dan Biggar.
I rate Dan Biggar. I don't mind. I think England will beat Wales.
Well, we already know that they will, because if they do face them, we already know that England win the World Cup and are unbeaten. So that's not an issue. But I think Dan Biggar, certainly for England anyway, is more of a threat in terms of what he can do. Yes, it can go horribly wrong, but
it's a bit of an England bogeyman. It's a bit like,
maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's maybe Anscombe is a better fly half, but just against England, there's something about Dan Biggar.
It's the thing about Dan Biggar. It's a bit like the Loch Ness Monster. Is he real? Is he not? No one really knows. He could be, but every way he seems to mess with the English.
Right. Well, look, on that note, let's leave our faithful listeners to the rest of their week. So actually, before we do, if any of you fancy coming on the pod, particularly for some of these live games, Dan's had some work-related last-minute call-ups, and so we don't want to continually miss the live games, and I'm sure no one wants to listen to me discussing it on my own. So if any of you do fancy guesting for a live game, we'd need you to be available throughout the game at home, so not in the pub, on Skype, and I can call you before, during, and after the game to do a live episode with me on the days when Dan's unavailable. Get in touch with us, englandrugbypod@gmail.com, or reach out on social media, at englandrugbypod, and just let us know, because it would be good to have some backups for the rare occasions when that is the case. And unfortunately, that's including this weekend coming. So a few days to get something set up for that one, if any of you are available.
I apologise, guys. My work schedule's a bit crazy at the moment. But yeah, if anyone could, and actually, I think that'd be nice. It'd be great to get somebody else's, especially some of our more regular listeners. It'd be lovely to have your input, and if you do, please get in touch with contact details as well, obviously.
Great, guys. We will catch you next time, and obviously remember, not long to go now. Rate, review if you get the opportunity over on iTunes. But more importantly, spread the word, get more people listening. Let's try and ramp this up. We are currently, Dan, number 2 in the iTunes Rugby podcast chart.
I think that must be, that's amazing, but I think that must be wrong, right?
Well, I mean, the big names that we won't mention right now have not classed themselves as a rugby podcast, just a sports podcast. So that helps us. But currently, we're number 2 behind House of Rugby. So, some of the big names are in there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the House of Rugby is huge. Well, I don't think we're ever going to take over them, and I quite like that podcast as well.
Yeah, it's good. That's obviously pretty cool. But yeah, guys, spread the word. Keep the subscribers coming. More of you that are listening, the more of you that can chime in and let us know what you think. And like we've always said, this is a journey towards this World Cup to witness England become the world champions once again. And you guys are along for the ride, so get involved. And we'll catch you next week. No, in fact, we won't. We'll catch you at the weekend, but we still need to work out the logistics. So, yeah, stay tuned.